how come these two patients had very similar situations? And he gave a complete different answer to both. One of them had good insurance, the other one didn't. The financial sustainability of the practice depended on giving a lot of chemo.
Pleased to have you, Dr. Pichardo-Johansson. She was a summa cum laude graduate from her medical college and is a retired hematologist oncologist, a life coach, communicator, and an Amazon best-selling author. She's also mother of 4 children, including twins with autism. Very special kids. After 15 years practicing oncology and after becoming a cancer survivor herself, she decided she no longer wanted to make a living fighting death. Makes sense. Instead, she now teaches people to fully enjoy life. Her mottos are life is too short to live without joy, and aliveness is a quantitative variable. She lives in Melbourne Beach, Florida, with her soulmate husband and a daughter with special needs. I will go ahead and get started. Can you explain why you entered medicine?
Thanks for sending me that question because it sent me remembering why. When I was 7 years old, my younger sister took pen and scribbled on the face of 2 of my favorite dolls, ruining them. The ink never came out. And around the same time, I scribbled in my own hand and scratched myself and thought, oh no, it's never going to come out. But it did, and the wound healed completely. And that got me fascinated. Just 7 years old, I was thinking, what a wonderful material I'm made of, so much better than the plastic my dolls are made of, that is self-healing, that it can become completely recovered after something like this. And I realize now that that was the beginning of my fascination for the human body. Anatomy was my favorite class in school. I loved everything about the science of the cells and how the normal body functions. And unfortunately, there wasn't a way to study that unless I was going to be a biology teacher, which my father discouraged me from because he was a teacher and ended up leaving that career out of being unable to make a living. And it sounded like medicine was the path to go, even if very soon you realize there that it's not about health, it's about illness. And it's not about the wonderful human body, it's about how to control that body and force it to do things that are different from nature.
Very good, thank you. Any enlightened aspects of your medical education or residency that you'd like to share?
Well, I guess that was the first one, the realization that medicine was more about illness than about health. But the next one came later on when I had to make a decision. Now in the United States as a Hem-Onc fellow, I could have gone into the biological research part, which should have been, in theory, closer to my original intention. But by then, several experiences, including my own mother's cancer diagnosis, which had pushed me into oncology, made me realize that without the human part, there wasn't a point in medicine, that the real point was healing human beings. And if you were not interacting with human beings, you were not really practicing medicine.
I think you made the right decision because you're a people person, and I can't see you just focused doing research. I think you like to interact and connect, and you have so much energy, joy, you have a natural glow about you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and so I guess that kind of explains why you entered oncology. And starting out, do you think oncologists entered the field for service reasons?
Well, the first thing I have to clarify that my joining oncology had a good side and a shadow side. The good side was I really admire how my mother's oncologist was the first person who gave us hope. The moment the incurable cancer diagnosis entered, all doctors started slipping away, pitying us, and really trying not to get emotionally involved. And she was the first person who said, no, we are going to do something about this. That was the good part. The shadow side was that it became my unfinished business. because I couldn't grieve my mother at the time, we had to be too focused on what was happening. When she eventually died, it was in the middle of my applications for residency. I couldn't grieve her. And then every cancer patient I encountered after that was my unfinished business. And while people say, why would you go to a career that's full of death and that's full of sadness? I saw many people get cured. I'm happy that I could be an instrument for that. But what was keeping me there was the dark side, was every time I lost someone, it was my chance to grieve what I hadn't been able to grieve before. So to answer your question, many oncologists, very good-hearted oncologists, the best oncologists, are there because of unfinished businesses. And whether that is healthy or not is the question. But those tend to be the ones that are most compassionate. Others are not. And when I asked those questions to some of my colleagues in the past, I got many different answers from, oh, well, it was the most challenging. Nobody wanted to do it. It was scary. To even, well, it was promising financially. So there are many reasons why people become an oncologist that are not necessarily compassion.
Well, thank you for those insights. That's fascinating. I know it has to be frustrating for many doctors, certainly for primary care physicians. And, I think we are control people. We like to be able to control and succeed with every aspect, but there's so many uncertainties. Do you have any other comments about your medical practice per se?
Well, I have to admit that my medical practice was a journey from innocence to experience, and maybe in not the best way, because little by little, that eagerness to help, to heal, confronted some of the realities around me. I remember the very first time I realized that my first boss, I was wondering, puzzled, how come these two patients that he was covering for me while I was out, both patients had very similar situations, not sure if they should get chemo or not. And he gave a complete different answer to both. And it was the insurance. One of them had good insurance, the other one didn't. That was the beginning of a series of epiphanies about how perhaps the original intention of healing that medicine was supposed to have had been contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
I have shared before that was one of the last things that pushed me to leave oncology, when I started realizing that there were patients who should have been on hospice a long time ago. And I assume their doctors are having trouble letting go. They are not wanting to accept these patients should be better in hospice. But then a conversation with an accountant made me realize that they felt obligated to keep giving chemo because most of the financial sustainability of the practice depended on giving a lot of chemo. And if you have a question about your health, this is the time to ask it. My channel is early. I have a relatively low traffic. I have time to devote to your questions individually if you send me one via the comments now. And by the way, if this conversation has helped you, please consider sharing it with someone you care for. Tell me what other topics you would like me to discuss in the future, and consider subscribing. Doctors can pass a lie detector that they are not letting the finances dictate what they give, but doctors get happy when there is a patient who's going to be requiring those medications that are very expensive because the profit for the practice is bigger.